didn't know it dropped $1 during after hours. Hey, what's up YouTube? This is FoxTail Digital coming to you again with Black Girl Stocks. And this is another segment of our top 3 option plays this week, where we're just gonna go over a few different trades, stock fundamentals, and different strategies that you can do to make it through, okay? Let's go ahead and get into this week's trades. The first stock that we're gonna talk about is Msft. That's Microsoft, and right now it's trading at $416.42. Okay, so we're gonna start with the daily chart, and you can see on the daily chart that we've been in a strong uptrend using our 13-period EMA line, that's this light blue, our 50 and the 200-period moving average, that's the white and the yellow. All of that it's been using as a good uptrend. And another positive that you can see on the daily chart is a positive cross on our MACD indicator. So you can kind of see here our orange MACD line crossed above our blue signal, and you can see our histogram looks pretty bullish on the daily chart. So that's pretty interesting. Now moving to our intermediate 4-hour chart, one thing I want to note is that it looks like our price has moved after a little pullback, a resistance point at a resistance level that we've reached a few times. So back in February and early March. And it also kind of used this area as the support right here around March 13th. So we've already used this as support before. This is the POC here. So the point of control using this volume profile indicator over here. A lot of volume around this $400.14 where our price is now. So that's a good indication. Moving back up here to the daily chart, using this 13-period EMA, I like that we've been trailing that, so that does offer continued support after that slight pullback that we looked at on the 4-hour chart. Another thing I want to note going to the 1-hour chart is how low our RSI indicator is. So after that pullback, it does look like we have a lower RSI value around 37. So that could point to undervaluation, making this a potential good opportune time for a bullish position. So if I was going to get into a bullish position on Microsoft, I would have my entry somewhere around this 416 to 416.30 area. And so just kind of seeing it cross this 13-period moving average on my shorter term 30-minute chart, that would just be a good indication that we are continuing in this. So this is going to be somewhat short term, but I'm going to be looking at the March 22nd $430 calls. So you can see we have a pretty decent premium, about 1.3, 1.2. The delta is a little bit lower, but we have high volume, open interest is decent, low implied volatility. The theta is it's all right. Also, because we had that strong dollar movement during the after hours, the premium's probably a little bit lower than what we see here, but we're just gonna have to verify with the pre-market movement on Monday. So we'll see what happens going into next week for Microsoft. Okay, so next up is going to be a position on Netflix, NFLX. And so you can see right now we're trading at around $605.88. So one thing to note is that the stock right now, so the stock's price is approaching its yearly highs. So that's showing strong momentum and investor confidence in the stock. Now, one thing that's interesting to see is this engulfing candle that we have on the daily chart. Even though it's bearish, it does show strong buyer interest overpowering the previous day's selling pressure. Moving down to our favorite 4-hour chart here, you can see we've been in that continuous strong uptrend. And I like that we have that low RSI value around 39. This kind of looks like a potential short-term pullback in a long-term uptrend. Also, another thing to note is we're at a high volume point, this dotted white line, the point of control, around $609. So this also highlights potential undervaluation and significant buyer interest at this key level, because you can see a lot of times when we reach this, we have a little price jump. Choo, choo. I'm wondering if we have a continuation in this uptrend. But a few signals to watch is another bearish pocket pivot that we were talking about. So going back to the daily chart up here, you can see that we have higher higher volume on this recent red candle. So that could show institutional distribution. So we kind of want to keep an eye on that. Another thing to note is a bearish MACD divergence. So using the MACD indicator here, you can show that our MACD highs have continued decreasing while the stock price has made higher highs. So this could suggest a pause or a reversal in the bullish trend coming up. So this is just kind of something to look at for Netflix. Also, this is a position that we were looking at last week in my options trading group. So I took some profits on the 13th, and then I took more profits on the 14th. And so you can see that we had that pullback towards the end of last week. And if I was going to have a bullish entry on Netflix going into next week, I'm going to have my entry around $607 to $609. I feel like $609 would be safer. This is our 200 period moving average on this 30-minute chart. So that's something that we can look into. 607 to 608 to 609. So it's something to look at for next week. Now for the actual option contract, this is going to be slightly short term, but I'm going to be looking at the March 28th calls with the 650 strike price. So I don't like that our theta is higher than the delta. So this is going to be something short term. Premium is decent. And we have high volume and open interest, but it's just kind of something that we can look into for next week for Netflix. And the next stock that we're going to be looking at is TSM. So that's Taiwan Semi. And right now it's trading at $136.98. We can kind of see we had a little bit of an up pull during after hours around 30 cents. Now, the first thing that I want to take note of course, is the strong overall uptrend on this daily chart. So you can see, I mean, we've been trading well above our 50 and 200 period moving averages, but we've also been using that 13 period EMA line as a good short-term support level as well. So this shows an overall bullish sentiment in the market for this particular stock. Now, some areas of concern that I want to look at on the daily chart is this 13 period moving average here. We kind of had our price pull below that, so that could be a sign of a loss in short-term momentum. Also, another thing to look at is the MACD indicator here. So you can kind of see we've had that bearish cross with our orange MACD line crossing below our blue signal line. And then you can also see we have some red here and bearish movement with our histograms on the MACD indicator. So this is usually looked at as a sign of a potential downtrend. So this is something to keep an eye on. But even with that, there's a few different indicators for a potential reversal from this recent pullback from the yearly highs that we've seen with TSM. So moving to our intermediate 4-hour chart, you can see that we have a lower RSI value here. It's around 39. So that's a good indication that the stock could be approaching an oversold condition, which means that we could see a potential rebound or reverse, a rebound or a bounce back. And speaking of bounce back, the price is at a previous resistance and support level. So right here, we use this area as a resistance level around February, and we also use this level as support around March 5th. This could be a place where we are right now where we could see the price stabilize and potentially reverse upwards. So for TSM, while we have seen a few different indicators like the low RSI value and the bounce back potential from the previous resistance point turning into a support level, do give us some strong bullish counter argument for what we've seen on the daily chart. So if I was going to get into a bullish position on TSM going into next week, I would have my entry probably somewhere around this 138 to 138.50. And you can see that's the 50 and the super trend indicator here on my 30-minute chart. So that's my closer time frame. So that's something that we can look into for TSM. So I'm going to be looking at the April 19th calls and the 160 strike price. So you can see that we have a decent premium around 1.75. The delta is okay around 0.17, and we have a low theta Very high open interest and volume, and the implied volatility looks okay. So this is something that we can look into next week for TSM. And this is actually something that I was trading last week as well. Oh yeah, and this is actually a position that I also took profits on around the 7th. So that was a couple of weeks ago, and that was from a bullish breakout. So that was a pretty good profit. It was around 42%. So that was pretty nice. So this was a bullish breakout trade. After seeing that strong momentum and relative volume, that was just a go to get into. But what we'd like to see after this recent pullback is using this resistance point around where we are, around 134, 136 as a support. So we'll see what happens going into next week for TSM. All right, and that's gonna be it for this week's trades. But if you enjoyed watching this video, please make sure that you click that thumbs up button for me. It really helps the channel. Also subscribe and click that notification bell so that you get notified anytime I upload a new video for you guys. If you found the technical analysis portion of this video interesting and you want more insight into which indicators to use based on what trading strategy that you're using, this may not be for you, but I dug deep into all of these topics in a previous video. So in that video, we explore the use of moving averages, MACD indicators, oscillators, and so much more based on a variety of trading strategies. Okay, so make sure you check out that video. You don't want to miss out on that. And I'll catch you on the next one.